Ooh, okay. There are probably 3 hockey fans that are watching this YouTube video. 3 kinds of hockey fans, excuse me. There are probably going to be more people than that. But there are 3 types of hockey fans that will be watching this video. First, you have the fans who don't know who this guy is. Easy to explain, he's a fairly obscure player, maybe not the most high-profile, high-spotlight guy, so maybe most casual fans are not expected to know everybody that ever played, so maybe you don't know who this guy is. Second type of person who is watching this video. It's the person who knows exactly who this guy is because they know whom it is that he had played for before he was in the NHL, they know his draft position, they know his playing position, they know his size, they know his weight, they know his junior hockey coach back when he was 12 years old. You got the encyclopedic hockey fans that are going to be watching this and like, yeah, I know who that guy is. I don't think the encyclopedic hockey fan is the majority, but he's up in there. And then the third type of hockey fan that is watching this video is the fan that knows who this guy is, not because they know everybody in the league, but because they know how valuable this player is in fantasy hockey, baby. Hell yeah! Today we are taking our talk over to the Utah Hockey Club. No, the Utah Mammoth, excuse me. And talking about a name that Elliotte Friedman mentioned on the 32 Thoughts podcast as an underrated offer sheet target. This is Jack Mcbain. And maybe I was a little bit too harsh about Mcbain and the way that we had spoken about him to open up this video. No, Mcbain isn't a bum, he isn't a nobody at the NHL level. He's a guy who has played a full season's worth of play twice in the National Hockey League already. In 22-23 with the Arizona Coyotes, this 6'4", 218-pound left-handed winger scored 26 points in 82 games played. In 23-24, he had 26 points in 67 games played, and then in 24-25, Jack Mcbain scored 13 goals and 14 assists in 82 games for 27 total points. Jack Mcbain, as we had heard, is an RFA. He's 25 years old, and if we turn to what Elliotte Friedman spoke about in regards to Mcbain from the recent 32 Thoughts podcast, he said that Mcbain could be an offer sheet target this offseason. Interesting thing to note about the way Friedman spoke about it on the show, though, after he speaks about Mcbain, he then talks about the Seattle Kraken as being a team that could potentially be going out there and looking at offer sheets in general. Not specifically, oh yeah, Seattle's gonna go after Mcbain, but like, he then just mentions that Seattle would be potentially interested in making some offer sheets, so do with that information what you will. But the reason we are making this video in this way, and talking about other teams like, for example, the Vancouver Canucks, is because Jack Mcbain is the kind of guy that I am such a big fan of, because this guy is a physical machine. In the 2024-2025 regular season, Jack Mcbain got himself 291 hits, 13 goals, 50 blocks, so this guy was going out there putting his body on the line, and he was doing all of this with 1334 minutes of ice time per game. Not to mention the fact that he was actually getting production and power play points too. He had 3 power play points on the year. Mcbain was such a strange player because he was so valuable for us folks in category leagues as an all-around threat. Now, sure, he wouldn't necessarily score points every single game. He kind of got a little bit hot towards the end of the season with 4 points in his final 7 games there. But Jack Mcbain would always bring the boom. He would get some blocks once in a while. He was very valuable for the Utah Hockey Club on their special teams, since he was a penalty killer there as well. There was just a lot of versatility with Mcbain in the lineup, and even though he's not going to go out there and score the lights out, this is the kind of guy that I'm thinking about it like, for example, if Rick Tocchet was still in Vancouver, Mcbain would be a really nice fit in that system. Imagine Garland, Mcbain, Sherwood, with Dakota Joshua there too. Like, that line is going to shut everybody down. Jack Mcbain is the perfect kind of guy that the Vancouver Canucks could have used in the playoffs last year. You replace Ilya Mikheyev with Mcbain? At the very least, Pettersson's playing with a guy who can cause a big ruckus. There's so much added value when you have guys who just have heart and who have that dog in them in the way that Jack McBain does. And that's why I've been such a big fan of this dude. I kept on dropping him and picking him up and dropping him and picking him up this fantasy season because I was like, yeah, okay, if I need hits and the Utah Hockey Club have a few more games here, I'll just pick up Jack McBain. And then it's like, all right, there you go. You win the category. Last year, I was using Jack McBain a lot. But ultimately, of course, we recognize he's not necessarily a super high point producing guy. The question is, what's the dollar amount that he gets? How much does a 20, 25, 30 point grinder get you on the free agent market? Or not even the free agent market, on the offer sheet market. If a team is willing to shell out, let's say, a second or a third or something for McBain, then honestly, I think about that. I think about that a lot. Because the price for what a McBain could cost, if you go to the very top of what a second-round pick would cost, $4.6 million, I mean, the Canucks can pay that. That's quite reasonable there. If the Utah Hockey Club are in a spot where they would rather keep their cap space because they want to potentially go after Mitch Marner, then it's like, okay, maybe at that point, the Utah Hockey Club, or the Utah Mammoth, excuse me, I gotta keep on saying Mammoth, maybe at that point, the Mammoth are like, okay, well, if McBain wants to go for $4 million, we're trying to make a push for a guy like Marner, for example. Maybe we just don't have that much money. Maybe we just don't have the flexibility to do everything we want to do with this Jack McBain contract being signed and this offer sheet being tendered. The Mammoth do have $20 million in cap space. It's not guaranteed that they would be interested in letting him walk. They could definitely just match it and move on with their lives. But if a guy like Mitch Marner commands $14 million, all of a sudden you're in trouble a little bit. And the Mammoths still do have to re-sign some other guys. Nick Bjugstad needs a contract. Nick Schmaltz is going to need a contract the year after. McShelly also. Barrett Hayton. There are some other guys whose contracts are going to expire in 2026. So maybe it's a possibility that we think about Jack McBain not sticking around with this team long term. He does need a contract himself, so if they're just not able to figure out terms and agree to something there, maybe it sets the stage for McBain to become an offer sheet target, as Friedman mentioned. Now, just to dive into the other team here, Seattle was also mentioned by Friedge as a potential offer sheet opportunity. I do think that the Kraken are starting to cook things up a little bit more. I kind of question the direction because there have already been other rumors of guys like Jared McCann being on the trade block, and that just gets me very intrigued because he's been linked to Vancouver as well. Matty Beniers, fantastic. Capo Caco looking a lot better than he was last year. Shane Wright, same thing. So there is a good young core here. If Seattle is interested in adding a physical presence to play alongside of an Eeli Tolvanen, for example, Tolvanen and McBain together would be a nightmare for most other NHL lines to deal with. Just the physicality and the pace there'd be so much to look forward to every shift from a physical point of view, and if these guys are able to get that offensive touch clicking too, who's to say that this wouldn't be a very nice duo to watch? The Kraken have a lot more salary cap space than the Vancouver Canucks do at the moment, so maybe it would be a lot easier for them to make this sort of an offer sheet. Who really knows? At the end of the day, though, I want you to let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. How do you feel about the idea of Vancouver or Seattle offer sheeting a name like Jack McBain? I personally am just super excited because I love McBain as a hockey profile and a guy that I can add on fantasy teams to make sure that I win the hits categories. But ultimately, there is a good player behind this profile. And if a team wants to offer sheet the Mammoth forward to get him on, then I guess we'll have to wait and see if that turns out, won't we? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed this video. And bye.